I'll let you know. All right. Hey, we're live. We're back for another episode of The Positive Effect. My name's April Sobral, and I'm super excited today because I have a retail rock star maker on my show.
Thank you for that. I'll send the checks in the mail.
I love it. So I'm just going to set us up before we jump into the conversation, which I'm really excited about. So if you haven't, seen this show before or followed us along, welcome. And if you're coming back, welcome back. And I say this every week, share this conversation in your feeds, tag somebody that can gain some, valuable insights from it, because it's a conversation that's very rare between retail leaders, sharing our experiences and lessons learned. And, if there's anything that you learned along the way, also make a comment. We're going to be able to post this as well on Spotify and Apple Podcasts now. So you'll be able to subscribe and just listen back to more amazing episodes. So with that being said, I've got Jeffrey P McNulty on the line today. I'm so excited.
Hello, April. I want to thank you for really having me on your show today. It's a great honor. When you reached out to me, I thought, wow, you got a lot of experience as well. And it's always nice to speak to industry leaders so I can learn as well. A lot of times we get called experts and it's like, I'm still learning just like everybody else. So I genuinely appreciate the invitation and I'm honored to be here today.
Oh, thank you. Well, the Positive Effect is all about celebrating the positive effect of leadership on teams and the businesses they've led. And I looked at your LinkedIn and I was like, wowed by it. Like, I'm like, we've all been leading these parallel lives, right? In retail,
right.
Leadership, but you've worked for some amazing brands. So if you can introduce who you are to, my network. There's a lot of people that probably know you, but there's some that don't. So just tell us who you are, what you're doing, and then we're going to jump into some questions about your leadership career.
Well, sounds good. Yeah, I was grateful for the opportunity to spend 30 years in the retail sector in the Southeast and Midwest as an executive leader with the Home Depot, Lowe's, Barnes & Noble, Shopko, PetSmart, Toys R Us, Festival Foods, and Publix supermarkets. I've also been a retail research analyst for the past, I think it's 17 years now. I'm also the founder and CEO of New Retail Ethos, which is a global retail consultancy that assists retailers and businesses, regardless of size, scope, or niche, with alleviating and addressing common pain points, as they say, through consumer insights, anticipatory intelligence, and retail research.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot. Whoa. That's so exciting.
Say that backwards, right?
Say that backwards. Yeah. So, a friend of mine, Ron Thurston, who I can see because he just said hi to us. So,
hi, Ron.
But he has coined that phrase, the accidental retail career, right? So I always love asking that question, like, talk to us about your journey into retail and why retail. Was it accidental or what happened? How did you get into it?
That's how long's our show? Actually, I started in retail in 1982 at Publix supermarkets in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, as a part-time bag boy, and I was still in high school at the time, going through, really enjoying the process, learning about retail. It's very overwhelming and a lot to learn. And as I left high school, I was going to college at Broward Community College. Didn't really know what I wanted to do for a career, but I really liked working in retail. And then in 1991, I joined the Home Depot. And it was one of the best experiences that I had throughout my entire career. Working with some of the founders there, I was blessed to learn under the expert tutelage of Bernie Marcus, Arthur Blank, Ken Langone, Pat Farah, Ron Brill. And then I was also fortunate enough to work with Marvin Ellison, who's the CEO of Lowe's right now, when he was the regional loss prevention manager at Home Depot in the early 2000s. So I've had a lot of opportunity to learn from these great iconic leaders. And it's 30 years in, it's an amazing experience. And after a while, I wanted to get out and do some different things and get more of a global reach with what I've learned and share it with more people.
Right.
So that's kind of like how I've got to the point where I am now. And I'm always going to be a retail advocate. I love the sector. I'm a very positive, upbeat person, as you can tell on LinkedIn by reading my posts.
Yeah.
And some of the posts take about an hour to create because I want to make sure I'm offering value and content for the 32,000 followers I believe I have.
Yeah.
And, it's a great experience. LinkedIn is fantastic.
It is.
Yeah, it's been a great experience, definitely.
It's got such a great retail network on it. And I feel like in the last couple of years, just through COVID, I've met people like yourself, people like Ron was a friend of mine on LinkedIn that I didn't know before. And it's been an amazing journey. And I think that what I've seen is the retail community coming together more, which I'm really happy to see because, you know, before everybody's kind of heads down in their brand, doing their work and not really reaching out. And so I feel like because of the last couple of years, nobody had the answers. They were like, oh my God, who do I tap on? Like my peers to talk to figure this out, right? Which I absolutely love. So you've had an obviously amazing career. So do you feel like it was intentional? Like when you started off, like you were like, you loved it and you're like, I'm going to make this a career?
Absolutely not. No, it was a part-time job to get some money to get a car. I was 15, 16 at the time. And I was obviously wanted a car to drive to school to be cool. I didn't want to ride the bus like all the, you know, the cool kids had the cars, and I was going to the beach all the time. So I was trying to get some money, and Publix was right down. My grandmother actually is a great story. It's very humiliating, but hey, grandmothers take care of you. Yeah. She actually walked into the Publix that was locally in our area, and she got the job for me. She basically walked in, said, I got a grandson. I need to get him out of the house. I need to get him start earning some money. And so I ride my bike there. It was about a 2 mile ride on my bike. And I started there. And anybody knows Florida, it's very hot. And I don't exactly have a tan complexion. So I'm Irish. And so a lot of sunscreen. And I was, you know, taking the groceries out to the cars. And I loved it because I was getting to talk to a lot of people. And that's what I love to do. I love to talk and engage and learn. And it was a great experience. And then when I got further through high school, I stayed on. And like I said, in 1991, that's where the retail career really changed because Home Depot, it was hard to get into Home Depot. It took me months to get in there. I mean, they had a long wait list to get in. And I had a lot of friends that at my high school and at my gym that I worked out at that were pulling every string in the book just to get in. It was a hard company to get in. Everybody wanted to work there. And it was well worth the wait. But that's where my journey really started from that point forward. Because Publix is a great company. I love them. In fact, I sent the CEO of Publix a copy of my book. Yeah. He's reading it right now, and it's a great company. Home Depot was a very big box, very challenging back then. You were responsible for, excuse me, all special orders, all installations, all deliveries. Everything was at the store level, and very challenging to work there. Sometimes overwhelming. But the good news is once you learn that, you have a system now in place and you can really help people. And that's ultimately what I wanted to do. So, that's kind of how I got into retail. It wasn't something that I chose. I think the expression is retail is you don't choose it, it chooses you. Yeah. That's kind of what I've heard over the years. And I can echo those sentiments that it's a very rewarding career. It really is. Yeah, but you got to have a good work ethic. You got to love people. It's a people-oriented environment. And so that's kind of how my journey started.
I love it. So talking about pivotal moments in your career, right? Because people love learning from our pivotal moments. What's a pivotal moment in your career? And why do you view it as a pivotal moment?
Yeah, 1991, I was considering leaving retail to become a police officer. Because when I first started at Home Depot, it's very challenging, very hard. You're not making a lot of money. And I applied before I actually applied to Home Depot. The Gulf War hit, the Desert Storm War hit. Just started, and the local police departments implemented a hiring freeze. So I've been working about 6 months at Home Depot at this time, and I started really enjoying the environment. I started at the Deerfield Beach store, which anybody that knows is a very small store. In fact, if you were coming in for a closing shift, you'd have to drive around the parking lot for like 10-15 minutes waiting for somebody to leave. It didn't have a lot of parking. Very awesome store. The engagement, the energy was off the charts. And what I loved about it the most was Bernie Marcus, the CEO, lived in Boca Raton, which is about 5 to 7 minutes away off of I-95. So he was always in the store. So I walked with him a few times when he was walking the store, and I felt his passion, his leadership, his commitment. And it really was, it was hypnotic, to be honest with you. I really loved what he was doing. And he would tell stories about when he opened up they opened up their first stores. He would stand by the front door, excuse me, and anybody that left empty-handed, he would chase them out in the parking lot and ask them, what do we not have? What are we missing? And he would go to other stores and buy it and bring it back to the store. He was phenomenal. So I got a call from the Broward Sheriff's Office wanting to extend me an offer of employment. And I'm like, wow, this is tough because the salary as a police officer was double. The benefits were fantastic. And I said to myself, wow, this is a hard decision. So I used a tactic that I like to use to this day. I gave myself one night to make the decision. So I went home, I gave myself one day, I gathered all the information I could, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna stay at Home Depot, and I could envision a bright future with Home Depot. Because as I was going to college, they said, listen, a college degree is great. You don't need one to work here. But if you have a passion for people, you really enjoy what you're doing, and you have a strong work ethic, you can make a lifelong career here. And that's what I decided to do. So that was kind of the moment where my life could have went to be a police officer. And, obviously I would have probably enjoyed that alternate reality as well. But I really had the retail vibe in my blood, and I really wanted to enjoy it. Now, when I was getting my paychecks, I was starting to think about it, because I was like, wow, because being a police officer is twice the amount of money, at that time. And when you're when you're in your early 20s, every dollar counts. But
yeah,
I made the right decision. I really believe, and I believe that we're guided along on our path and steps. And I don't regret my decision to this day.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I have an 18-year-old son that's like now a shift supervisor at Burger King in Florida.
Oh, wow.
And he calls me yesterday. He's like, Mum, the district manager came and they want to promote me to an assistant manager. He's like, this is not what I think I want to do for my life. And I'm like, I can't be mad at you for being an assistant manager at 18 years old. I'm like,
impressive. Very impressive.
You might make it, to a store manager. You might just keep going. And I was like, oh, it made my heart warm, because it's like, I'm an advocate for retail being a great career, because it truly is. I moved around the world with it. So that's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And he said, I said, why do you think you're getting promoted? He said, I work really, really hard. I've got work ethic and I'm really nice to people. And I'm like,
that's the formula right there. He's got the formula already at such a young age.
Yeah. So what's a lesson that you learned early on in your career that has helped you progress your leadership journey? Because obviously you moved up, right? You got promoted. You've held some really great senior roles. Mm-hmm. So what was a lesson that kind of helped you shape you and you learned from?
That's a great question. Yeah, probably the most impactful one. Again, God bless the Home Depot. They gave me so much opportunity, and I learned probably 85-90% of my retail career when I was there for 13 years in 5 different states. I was a new department manager at Home Depot in the early 90s, and the second store I worked in is in Pompano Beach, Florida, right off of 95. And it was a Friday afternoon, and I had the weekend off. So I was rushing to my car to go home, take a shower. I was going to go to the clubs and out to the beach and everything. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I forgot to write the schedule for next week. Now this is before you had to write the schedule 2 weeks out. You had to have it done by like Friday afternoon for the following week.
Right.
So I ran back into the store and I wrote the schedule, which took about 5 minutes. Now, to preface, everybody received the requests off. There was no scheduling issues, no conflict, etc. So I left. On Monday, I came back and I sensed a chaotic vibration throughout the department. So I went up to my backup department manager and I said, what's going on with everybody? It seems like there's a weird vibe going on. And he said that everyone was upset with the schedule you wrote in pencil. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness. At this point, I was humiliated. I was humbled, ultimately humbled. And I had a massive epiphany at this point. Mm-hmm. I was responsible for 17 employees' lives and the lives of their families as well by the schedule that I wrote. So I immediately apologized to every employee. I walked around to everybody working that day and apologized to them. And I made sure that every single person in our apartment, how many ever days it took, I apologized to every single person there. And at that moment, I resolutely grasped that I was given an enormous responsibility of leadership. And I made a resolution that I was going to treat this with respect and reverence moving forward. Mm-hmm. So after this major oversight, mm-hmm. I became known as the schedule king at this point. So I started writing in block lettering. I started using highlighters, adding positive quotes, and placing the schedule in a plastic sheath. So my schedules were known as works of art at that point because I realized what I was doing. Mm. And by writing this schedule, I thought I'm just writing down coverage for the store. Again, everybody's getting what they need off, and their times and dates and stuff. But it just hit me that, wow, you're responsible for 17 people's lives and then their families' lives as well by the schedule you're writing. And I said to myself, you know what? It's important that I give this effort some extra energy.
Yeah.
Because, you're affecting people's lives. And it never really struck me like that. I mean, I knew I was writing a schedule and people have to, but when that happened, I could understand why everybody was so upset. So I was extremely grateful for the opportunity to learn this valuable lesson early in my leadership career.
That's an amazing lesson, and one that anybody watching this that works in retail could actually honestly reflect and think about themselves, that you're not just writing a schedule to cover hours and meet your payroll goals. You are actually impacting people's lives, like you said. And like, that's a huge responsibility as a leader, right? Like, a lot of times young leaders are going through the motions and like check, check, check. And, you know, your district manager comes into a store and that you're going through a checklist. But at the end of the day, right, it all comes back to your effect as a leader on your team. Because, you know, I learned early on, I had a regional director that told me, he's like, you know, April, when people go home at night, right, they talk about you because you're their boss, and like their family are either telling them to quit and go get another job, or like show up tomorrow. So like when people leave after their day, you want to think about, what are they talking about you at the dinner table? And that really hit me on the head, because I was the same thing. I was like, oh my God, I really impact people's lives. And, you know, how important that is and how we have to value that. And I like what you said, have reverence for it, because it really is at that level. So, you know, my next question then is like, what's your perspective on the impact of good leadership on an organization, and what makes a good leader?
Well, the expression I keep in my mind has always kept me centered, and I'm not really a fisherman, but a fish stinks from the head down. I heard that, and it really struck me as it always starts at the top. Any organization I work with globally, domestically, I always look at the top and start there, because that's where everything starts. Every best-in-class retailer has a staunch commitment to ensuring that the CEO and the C-suite's team are leading by example, by championing exemplary leadership. And here's the key word: consistently. So true servant leaders, in my opinion, generally care about people and care about their employees' best interests. They have their best interests at heart. So I was blessed, again, like I said, to learn from the 5 co-founders of Home Depot. Just an amazing opportunity to learn from true servant leaders. And I had 5 to 10 different ones. I also had a district manager that was out here with me at Home Depot named Dave Lafredo. He was another great, inspirational, true servant leader. And it's something that you really, I always ask people when they wanted to get promoted, I asked them just one question in the very beginning: why do you want to get promoted? And, you know, usually it's, you know, in the back of your mind, you're thinking more money, more responsibility, more power, more, you know, that stuff. And I want to hear, what are you going to do to help people when you get promoted? That's my goal. You're being promoted to another level, regardless of what level it is. And your role, your responsibility is to take care of people, and also to develop future leaders. People would say, what's your number one job as a leader, Jeff? And they would say, customer service, no. Safety, no. It's developing future leaders. That's the goal. Because when you're developing future leaders, that energy is permeating throughout the entire store.
Yeah.
You're creating little mini-me's, basically, you know, of your leadership style. So to me, a fish stinks from the head down. So if you're the store manager at a store with 300 people, okay, Bernie Marcus said something that I didn't understand what he meant when he said it. He said he could walk into a store and in 30 seconds know the exact leadership style of the store manager.
Wow.
And I was like, holy smokes. I said, is that like some kind of superpower? I'm like, how do you do that? I'm thinking to myself, and I'm asking this question out loud, and everybody's looking at me, and I'm like, oh, I said that out loud, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm a department head at the time. And I thought to myself, I got to learn how does he do that? So what I found out that he does is that he walks into a store. He first starts in the parking lot. He looks at, is there a lot of carts in the corral? Are the trash bins overflowing? Can you get into the store? You know, the opening to the store, is it blocked my merchandise? Then he walks in and he looks at the special services area. He looks at the returns area. Are there lines backed up? Then he gets and stands in the main aisle, looks both left and right. He looks to see if customers are being serviced, if leaders are out there on the floor. He looks at the lines at the register. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's processing like 50 different pieces of information in 30 seconds.
Right.
And I thought, holy smokes, this is phenomenal. And what I learned is that I learned to do that as well. I can walk into a store now. Now I'm not nowhere near his level, obviously, because Bernie was doing it for decades and at a very high level. Yeah. But you can actually tell the vibration of a store. And this is in the book. I talk about feng shui principles that I implemented back in 2000. 22 years ago, I was talking about feng shui principles.
Wow.
How energy flows through a store. You ever walk into a space, be it a store, a friend's house, a spot in nature, and you're like, wow, I really like it here. Yeah. I feel comfortable. The energy's harmonious, and I don't ever want to leave, that type of thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then you walk into another space and you're like irritated, you're upset, you're feeling, angry, and you want to get out of there as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And that's by how the store is, excuse me, is merchandised, how the energy flows throughout the store, and the store manager sets the tone for that energy.
I can't agree.
In a company, it's the CEO, but in a store, it's the store manager.
I can't agree more, because, there's a lot of talk on like lots of retail technology companies, let's say, have built a lot of tools for frontline associates, which is really important, by the way, because frontline associates are like golden. Like without them, we wouldn't be able to help our customers. Correct. But I always say, you can build and train and build selling models and do all this stuff for frontline associates, but the number one person that makes an impact in that store, whether it's great experience for the customer or not, is the store manager, and then district manager and regional director. It all comes all the way down, right? And Correct. So what you're saying is exactly that. It's like when you walk in, that's why I always walk into a bathroom. Like when I go do store visits, I used to always go into a bathroom, because I was like, I can tell, right? Like
TMI.
Yeah.
Too much information, I understand.
Though, right?
You want to see every area and make sure. Correct.
How you take care of your people. That's what you can tell. I'm sure you're like me. We were saying this earlier, but before we got live, like you walk in stores, you're like, oh, start moving things around and like cleaning. Yeah,
my wife says, Jeff, you got to stop. I go into stores. I'm trying to pack down stuff. I'm trying to straighten stuff. I'm telling, hey, that customer needs a service over there, and hey, go get a ladder and downstock that. My wife's like, you don't work in retail anymore, Jeff. But it's like we were saying, once a cop, always a cop. You don't turn it off. You don't turn it off. And once you've learned that, you want to share. But that was a great story we shared earlier.
Yeah. So what advice would you give retailers to survive in such like, a changing volatile market right now, right? That we've endured through the pandemic. Obviously, there's been a lot of change. There's been big ones that have gone out of business. There's been D2C brands that have come into bricks and mortar. But like, what advice would you give?
Yeah. How long is your show?
You've got like 9 minutes left.
9 minutes left. Okay. No, the retailers today are actually doing a lot better. I have a lot of positive things to say, like I was telling you off camera.
Yeah.
I'm a very positive, upbeat person, and I believe in shining the light on the positive things that retailers are doing right now. Retail is coming around full circle. Customers are yearning for a experiential environment that harkens back to a bygone era of what I call the 4 E's, which is engagement, experience, entertainment, and execution. And so when I consult with the retailer clients that I have, I cover a strategy it's called CAPED, CAPED. The C stands for customize, the A stands for adapt, the P stands for personalize, the E for engagement, and the D for differentiate. And then just to summarize each point quickly, because we don't have much time, the customized section could be on-demand manufacturing, 3D printing, bespoke products and services, which is a burgeoning trend in the near future. I'm looking forward to seeing stores do that.
Yeah.
The adapt is acclimate to changing consumer preferences through innovation, strategy, engagement, and execution.
Yeah.
Personalize is localized product and service assortments to match geographical locations. And then you're focusing on targeted communication. And here's the key one. This is the key. If you had to say, what's the most important one? It's the E for engage. It's listen and react to customers, employees, leaders. And here's the one that gets left out, vendors. Listen to their feedback while remaining consistently active with community involvement. So the E1 is the one that gets kind of off the rails a little bit because some leaders, they say they listen, but they don't react and respond accordingly. And the key word is expeditiously. If somebody comes to you with a great idea, try to run with it. I piloted many things at the stores I worked in. I piloted Gorilla Glue at the Home Depot. So when you walk into Gorilla Glue and you see it at the Home Depot, I was responsible for that. I did it in the store in Green Bay in 2002. I reached out to Bill Patterson, our president at the time, got approval from my district manager, of course, first. And then said, I'm going to pilot these SKUs. I'll take care of all the effort. I don't need any extra hours, any extra, financials. And then 6 weeks later, they rolled it out to Midwest Division, and then, of course, to the entire company. And then the last one is differentiate. Excuse me. The one I like the most about this is creating proprietary brands. And a lot of retailers are doing a great job with this. And proprietary brands are awesome because the retailers kind of have a higher level of control over the pricing and cost structure, the quality of the product, adaptability. They can create exclusivity and brand loyalty. Then, of course, differentiation. You can also provide exemplary service, create a world-class culture of raving fans, and implement employee-focused behaviors. So that's kind of what I cover with most of my clients that I have that are in retail. And it goes over pretty well because we go through each one. and we cover it from stem to stern. And it takes months sometimes to go through that process. So as you know, with working with clients as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think engagement for me is like so important now. I go into so many stores now and I'm like, like the engagement in the store is just not great. And I feel like because we've lost a lot of people that didn't come back, and we've got like new leaders, new people entering, like, you know, my son, like that 18, 19-year-old, like people coming into retail now again. And I feel like there's a lot of training and support that they need. And particularly around engagement, you know, like people always like bricks and mortar and dead. I'm like, it's not going anywhere. There's too many stores out there. People love shopping in a store. They just love the experience of it, as long as the experience is good.
Let me tap in real quick to one other strategy, because I know we're running out of time. Is another strategy I again consult with on the clients is it's called GAP, and it stands for growth, autonomy, and purpose.
Okay.
So these are the three seminal strategies that are contributing to some of the great resignation that's happening. Entrepreneurship is something else I talk about. In fact, I just had a post about it on LinkedIn. Everybody knows what entrepreneurship is, but intrapreneurship is taking the same kind of passion and work ethic and influencing your embracing it with your employees and leaders by fostering an inclusive environment where autonomy can flourish. And so again, the acronym is GAP. So it stands for growth, autonomy, and purpose. And it's predicated upon ensuring that your values and convictions are aligned with these three qualities for your employees. So I think if you can do those things, if you look at the growth, do they have opportunity to grow? You know, how's your succession planning process?
Yeah.
You know, we talked about that when we talked yesterday on the phone before this call. Succession planning is so important. The great thing about working in retail is you might have an 18-year-old that wants to be a CEO, and the 70-year-old just wants to work part-time, supplement their income, and get out of the house for a little bit.
Yeah.
So the autonomy piece, most of the great ideas that came through the stores I worked in didn't come from me. They came because I empowered a lot of the employees and leaders, again, within the confines of the structure of the company and the company policies and stuff like that. But hey, you see something here, go run with it for a little bit. Get a little approval from the my district manager or vice president, whatever, we were working on, and let them run with some stuff and come up with some creative ideas.
I mean, that's how the name on the Starbucks cup got put on the cup, because I was a store manager at that time and I was managing a store on South Beach. And people just kept taking the wrong drink. And we had secret service scores, legendary service scores. So I was like, I've had enough. Like, we've got to get this right. So we just started asking people the name and we put it on the cup. And it went everywhere. And like, that was a free, very simple thing that we did. But it made a difference. And now, like, it's part of their standard.
Ubiquitous at this point, correct.
Yeah, it's part of their standard. But like, that came from us just wanting to make sure the customer got the right drink at the end of the counter. So I think that you're right. I think it's like embracing that and how leaders do that, and creating those forums for people to share and not feeling threatened and feeling like you create this place where people have a voice, right? And that just takes you as a leader to be open, get your ego out of the way and like really believe that everybody in your team has something of value to add. And that everybody's multi-talented. And the one thing I love about retail is there's people that come into retail that have had careers everywhere else. Or they have part-time jobs where they have a full-time career. Like I had marketing people in my stores. I've had teachers in my store. I mean, I've had it all, right? Like somebody that managed an office, somebody, all different types of people, like somebody in a music business. It's crazy who you meet when you're working in retail. So anyway, we're coming up on time. Oh, I could sit here and talk to you all day, honestly.
Let's talk about the pandemic lessons. I want to talk about some of the pandemic lessons.
So what have you learned through the pandemic that shaped you as a leader?
Well, everybody knows me on LinkedIn, knows I staunchly believe in silver linings. I always look for the silver linings in every situation. And what's exciting to me is many retailers are ramping up their investment in their employees' future growth, their advancement, and their development. It really brings joy and happiness to my heart to see that they're increasing wages and benefits and educational opportunities. I was also super excited to see the frontline workers being recognized and rewarded, like we talked about earlier. They were phenomenal. They still are. They've always have been through their sacrifice and dedication and service. I'm looking forward to seeing this positive momentum going forward. So I want to take this moment to say thank you to every retail employee and leader for their monumental efforts to keep our society moving forward. And I also want to say, I want to commend and applaud the human resources personnel and the C-suite leaders on their magnificent commitment to creating an empathetic and inclusive environment where employees and customers feel valued and appreciated. So I just have the utmost respect for all the executive and C-suite retail leaders today, because what they're going through is unprecedented.
Yep.
They're faced with the daunting task of evolving within an aggressive new arena that has never been witnessed before within the retail sector. And they're experiencing an all-out attack from every angle, from Amazon to omni-channel, e-commerce, younger generational shopping patterns, digital curation, supply chain issues, and of course, the great resignation. And there's no historical data to guide them. Where back in the past, you had historical data. It was more about just execution.
Yeah.
Up with a few lines. And so I'm just happy to see retailers embracing the mutually beneficial and collaborative partnerships with the store-in-store strategies like Target and Ulta and Kohl's and Sephora, and now Lowe's and Petco Health. So I want to say thank you to everybody in retail for what you're doing. I really appreciate it. After 30 years, it becomes your baby, and I'm a fierce advocate for everybody working in retail. Whenever I'm in the retail stores, I'm excited to be in there, and it never leaves your blood. If you really enjoy it, you always enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So just to follow up, the one slogan I have for the future retail is a healthy balance between innovation, technology, and here's the key piece: human engagement. That's the key piece. People think with automation, it's going to take some human jobs away, and it will. But we need to backfill that with the human engagement piece. And remember that we're human beings. We're not robots. Technology is great. Innovation is great, but it's all about people. And so that's kind of my slogan that I created to keep me focused on the future of retail.
Oh, I love it. Oh, that's so good. Those 3 pillars. You've dropped some gems on us today, Jeffrey. Like, honestly, because, retailers, we love acronyms, right? Like we just...
Yes.
We love acronyms. I can see.
I have to send you a lot. I might have to back up the Brinks truck at this point. You're going to get a big check.
It's funny. I can see people putting like your acronym GAP in the chat and stuff. So you'll have to go back afterwards and have a read and make some comments. But yeah, I mean, it was wonderful to, get to chat to you live and share your knowledge and your wisdom and your advice with my network and your network, and just come together as retail leaders that are advocates for this industry. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day and just sharing everything you just shared. It was super enlightening and inspiring and very positive, which I'm all about. So I can't thank you.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, when you reached out to me, like I said, I use another I know we love acronyms, but I posted about this recently. It's called TIER, TIER. And every time I get ready to do an engagement with anybody, I go through that. The T is for time, the I is for investment, the E is for emotion, and the R is for return. Most people go through the T, the I, and the R, but they forget the E part, which is the emotion, and what emotional commitment you have when you engage with certain clients and certain vendors that you're going to work with. So I go through that. And when I spoke to you yesterday, I instantly knew that we meshed. We have the same humor, the same kind of similar views on leadership, as well as Ron Thurston. I guarantee we're three amigos right there with that. And it's nice to see other people that share the passion for retail. I know Ron has a book called Retail Pride. Yeah. I know I'm pushing his book, and I should be pushing mine, right? Send me a check later, will you? But anyway, yeah, it's great to see people in retail and what they're doing. It really is refreshing to see. The pandemic was a blessing in disguise, really. I mean, nobody likes to lose lives, and what happened, it's sad, but it really propelled, I believe, the sector forward 5 years with the innovation, the technology, and the focusing on the frontline workers. Yeah. So I'm really happy to see that, and I like to see it continue forward. So it's my pleasure being on your show. I'll be more than happy to come back in the future. I'd love to keep engaging with you. Like I said, thank you for the opportunity, and I really enjoyed the time.
Amazing. Well, that wraps up another episode of The Positive Effects. And I'm going to say it again, share this conversation, tag people, share it with your retail network, because, it's one of those conversations that we just need to keep sharing and spreading the positive vibes. And I love what you said about energy and feng shui. I'm going to go grab your book now, Jeffrey, because I haven't read it. So I am going to commit to reading it. And
thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, and you can, find Jeffrey on LinkedIn. Get in touch with him. He's doing some amazing things with his courses too. And that just, wraps up another show. So for that, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much.
Thanks, April. Bye.